But you could just tell something was wrong that day. It was just a different day, a different feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the lightning was just so intense throughout the sky. I mean, just every second or half a second, you'd go out, and it seemed like the atmosphere was just electrified.
It was a freight train sound. It just kept getting louder, and the house vibrated.
The thing that really got me, there's probably 150 people that were injured, not including the ones that were deceased. And that hospital was small, and it overwhelmed the hospital.
We physically hauled people out in back of pickup trucks, bodies, if you will, in back of pickup trucks, anyway, to get them to the hospital, get them, somewhere out of harm's way, if you will. But it was one of the most devastating things that I saw.
On April the 3rd of 1974, started out as a normal day. I know it got extremely hot that day for that time of year. I recall that afternoon, the skies were a scary color of pinks and greens and just multiple colors that nobody had ever seen before. And I recall storms in the northwest that were isolated in the early afternoon, all of a sudden just exploded into supercellular type storm. Just went from virtually nothing to 60,000 feet. And the 57 radar, we have an RHI scope where you could actually see the vertical profile of the storms, and they would top out around 60,000. And sometimes you get hail spikes that actually would go above that. So, but it was 82 degrees, and I guess that was the magic number for the day there. Once we hit that, we busted the cap.
It was a Wednesday, which we called it Black Wednesday, after the tornado struck. About midway through church service, a member of the church was at home and heard on the scanner that a tornado had been sighted heading towards Cookville, and she called the church office. We got everybody down the hallway down to the basement, and I remember midway through going to the basement, the lights went out, and just total darkness. People were upset about it, just total darkness. And then they started getting candles, and they were singing songs and stuff, and we were in there for probably 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I went outside with my dad, and I remember the hail coming down, a lot of lightning, heavy rains, and the hail was just bouncing off the pavement. And then we went home, and then that's when he got called out. Knew that there had been a tornado that had struck. So.
April 3rd, 1974 was the reason I went on to become a meteorologist. Had a terrible day of tornadoes in my hometown of Cincinnati. And I'll never forget the memory of coming up out of my house after spending probably an hour in our basement, and my dad taking me outside and saying, "Tommy, you got to see this. Look at this backyard." And I just remember our backyard was just full of debris, pieces of homes, pieces of people's lives, postcards from Indiana. It was really for a very young child, it was really an earth-shattering kind of thing. It changed my life right then.
Everything got deathly still, just absolutely deathly still. And I heard this rumble. And then the wind started picking up. And I knew we didn't have time to do anything, so I said, "Get down in the floor." So my wife was here, and my daughter was here, and this kept getting louder and building up, and I covered them up with my hands like this. And all of a sudden the house just exploded. The roof went off the house, all the windows blew out of the house, and I've never felt any force like that before or since. But it didn't last very long. It seemed like it was a long time, but I'm sure it was only a matter of seconds. And then things started calming back down.
I recall that night very vividly. We were sitting at home. My mother was with us. Something just told me to ask her, could we leave? So I did. And she said, well, we're ready for bed. We're not going anywhere. And it wasn't very long till she was on the phone and she said, let's go. So we left. And we had been gone maybe 10 minutes, and then the tornado came through and everything that we had was gone.
That was hit. The son had apparently in school, they had taught him that mobile homes and trailers were not safe during storms and tornadoes. And he left the trailer. He tried to get them to go with him, as we were told. And they didn't think, I guess everybody, you just think it's not going to happen to you, you know. And they didn't leave, but the young boy left. And he went out and just hit a ditch and held on. The tornado that went through that area did hit the trailer, and the boy survived. And his mother and his stepfather and his grandfather were all killed. I guess knowing them personally was the biggest impact, because I knew 2 of the 11 who were killed.
Like I said, you couldn't see anything unless you had a flashlight and you were walking in the debris that you didn't even know was there. In fact, you couldn't even tell how bad it was until the next morning when it became daylight, how severe it had been. So we were removing injured people by trucks, cars, whatever way we could remove the injured people from the scene. We made arrangements later on to remove those who were deceased.
We would have to go maybe dig people out of brush piles, debris, houses. It looked like a war zone, if you will. Trees were stripped of all vegetation, limbs and what have you, houses completely demolished, several $1 million worth of property damage. But the most devastating thing was, of course, the lives that were lost there.
Yeah, we're fortunate to have all the notification systems that we've got in Putnam County. We're one of the, I guess, most ready available county that's got that type of equipment. We've got outdoor warning sirens. We've got the cable interrupt system. We've got all the monitors in the schools, hospital, nursing homes, and just a lot more, I guess, readiness for the county since then. You know, a lot of people take, that's tornado warnings. Oh, it's just another tornado warning, but it's the technology has changed so much, and getting that information out as quick as we can from from the Weather Service standpoint to us getting out with the Facebooks, the Twitters, the smartphones. It's just so much technology nowadays. It's quicker, and it's really come a long ways, and I think that's what's helped save lives over the years.
I think in this day and age of instantaneous communication with social media and with things, the platforms like Twitter and Facebook, is that it really gives us an invaluable tool to be able to reach out to people quickly, coordinating with the National Weather Service. But I think that what social media has done is it makes more people aware. Not everyone has a weather radio that can warn them instantly.
With our hard work since 1974 until today, I'm proud to say that we have come a long ways. We've put a lot of hard work into this county, and I'm proud to say we are storm ready.